had a vivid dream this weekend, and Charlie came to me and he told me that he was betrayed. Quote me on that.
I'm sorry, but dreams are not evidence. We got to check in with Candace Owens, the podcaster, YouTube extraordinaire, and conspiracy theorist. I think she actually would unironically call herself that at this point, because she's making so many claims about Charlie Kirk's death that it's hard to keep up. But she just dropped an entire episode where she accuses a Jewish journalist and political commentator, Josh Hammer, of essentially being in on Charlie Kirk's murder, of knowing about it ahead of time, somehow like having advanced knowledge. Maybe this connects to her suggestion. Maybe it was an inside job at TPUSA. Maybe it was done by Israel, all things she has no real evidence of. But she's making these very serious allegations about Josh Hammer, but making some pretty blatant errors and grossly contradicting herself in some ways that I think are worth pointing out, because millions and millions of people are tuning in still and don't seem to realize they're being misled. And then just to be fair to Josh, who it's funny because Josh and I agree on very little. We have had cordial interactions in the past, but there's like, we're not friends, we're not allies in any political or ideological sense. But I just feel compelled to help clear up his name a little bit, because Candace did him so dirty by smearing him as somehow in on the death of a dear friend of his, because of a tweet she took insanely out of context and misportrayed. We're going to break it down. But all right, so first, here is the episode she dropped. I did listen to the whole thing. Charlie's final hours. What else is Josh Hammer lying about? His pictures in the thumbnail. And she goes on to accuse him, I would say pretty explicitly, of having advanced knowledge of Charlie's murder, like this was going to happen, and maybe even calling for it on X. Let's watch this clip, and I will then show you some receipts I was able to pretty easily find. Actually, it didn't take much work or effort. I just had to scroll for about 5 minutes that contradict the things she's saying. Now, this is a compilation. I did watch the full Candace episode, but this is a compilation made by Milk Bar TV, which is a account that criticizes Candace Owens and slices up compilations of her contradicting herself and then puts receipts against her claims in the video. Here is a compilation they made from this video that she made, very explicitly accusing Josh Hammer of some kind of nefarious activity on the basis of exactly one tweet. Let's take a look.
Twitter users pointed out a very strange tweet that Josh Hammer hit send on 16 hours before Charlie Kirk was assassinated. For no apparent reason at all, he retweeted something that President Donald Trump had sent a full 12 years ago about public executions. Here it is. Here is that retweet. Now, what is the justification for this? There might be one. I tried in earnest to at first rationalize it, right? What could have been going on that Josh Hammer decided to dig through the 2013 Twitter archives and retweet someone calling for a public execution?
So, okay, the first problem here is she makes it sound like it was just Josh who did this. That's not true. Tons of people were sharing this old Trump tweet calling for public executions, and they were doing this because everyone was talking about the murder of that Ukrainian refugee who was murdered by that man on the subway. And it was in reference to that he was making this claim. And we know this because I went back in Josh's feed, I found this exact tweet, and immediately prior to that, he had retweeted the U.S. attorney for the Western District of New York City saying federal charges against the Charlotte killer are to make sure that the violent people like this don't see the light of day. So immediately after that, he then shares this, should public execution for all to see be brought back, tweet from Trump. Yeah, so it's like immediately clear that he was talking about the person who murdered that Ukrainian refugee and saying there should be public executions. And it wasn't just him. Tons of people were sharing this old Trump tweet because of that, because the federal charges had just dropped that day or maybe the day before. And so everyone was talking about the case still. That is why he tweeted this. But she is suggesting that what exactly? That he had foreknowledge of that Charlie Kirk was about to be publicly executed? That is what she's implying, with no evidence other than this completely out of context tweet. And again, you can go and find tons of people who were sharing this old Trump tweet. If you go to the quote tweets, tons of people were circulating it, and tons of people were calling for the death penalty for the dude who killed this woman, or for public executions, because the federal charges had just dropped. So she looked really hard but couldn't find an explanation. She clearly either was looking and didn't want to find an explanation, or is just being dishonest here. I don't know what to say. But guys, I come back to this. Extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. And she's suggesting that Josh Hammer was somehow aware of what was going to happen to Charlie Kirk. And her only evidence is this tweet she has misunderstood. That's it. Seriously, like, let's keep listening.
Would we trust if Josh came out and said that tweet was definitely about Irina? Other people pulled Trump tweets. Some did, pulled that very tweet and called for a public execution. The first time.
So this is so strange because she says she couldn't find any reason why he would share this tweet and say public execution. But then, as Milk Bar put on screen, tons of people were sharing that tweet about the Ukrainian refugee case. And then also, she acknowledges that other people were doing that, but then says it's so suspicious that Josh Hammer pulled this random tweet. Does she not understand how this doesn't add up? This does not make sense. And again, guys, I am not a Josh Hammer fan. Okay, like I know nothing in common. We're not friends. And by the way, every time I criticize Candace, people are like, is Israel paying you? I actually disagree with a lot of Josh Hammer's views on Israel. I think he totally lacks sympathy for the people of Gaza in a way that I don't agree with at all. And I'm not paid by Israel in any way. I just call out internet charlatans and crazy people who spread fake news. And Candace Owens is increasingly becoming one of the most prominent ones. So that's what I do. Okay. And I'll do that for the left. I will do that for the right. I'll do that for the middle. I don't care. And I don't even weigh in on the Israel-Palestine conflict in any great detail. I just weigh in on internet hoaxes, lies, terrible coverage, all this kind of stuff. And she keeps doing it. I would gladly do this for a pro-Israel person as well, by the way. So don't hit me with that. The BB checks have not hit yet. Okay. I'm not getting, people keep commenting, you're getting $7,000 a week, or I don't even know what that's talking about, but it's certainly not true. I make all my money from YouTube and other platforms and sponsors occasionally, but I don't get paid by any country. Crazy talk.
Time that he tweeted about a public execution was back in 2013. And he said it in reference, in 2022. And he said it in reference to the Boston Marathon bombing terrorist account. The Uvalde shooter. And I can tell you that it is not something that Josh Hammer regularly tweets about.
So this is just weird because she is admitting that he has previously, on multiple occasions, called for public executions of like atrocious criminals who commit horrible acts, but also telling us she doesn't believe that he was talking about the Ukrainian murder, the person who murdered the Ukrainian refugee. Why not? Like, you're providing evidence that supports his most obvious interpretation of events. I don't get it. How does she not see this?
Rather than say what he definitely meant or what he didn't mean, I decided to just create a micro timeline of Josh Hammer's tweets the day before Charlie Kirk's assassination. This is what Josh Hammer tweeted. He tweeted a total of 9 times on September 9th, and you can gather what was going on at that day from his tweets. This 3-hour break. Maybe this is
hilarious because her own timeline shows that on the day of this tweet, he was tweeting about the media appearances he was doing about the murder of the Ukrainian woman. But this is evidence he couldn't have been talking about the Ukrainian case. What? It's
a 3-hour break where he speaks to Charlie Kirk. And then at 9:09 p.m., again, we're talking Eastern, Josh Hammer tweets in favor of public execution, and there's no context that is provided. So anybody telling you he for sure meant this, we cannot know that. We cannot know Josh Hammer's thoughts.
So she did a whole episode of her podcast that millions and millions of people listen to and watch, suggesting some sort of nefarious behavior or foresight on behalf of Josh Hammer. And the only real evidence she has is this tweet from him that actually makes perfect sense. And there's a million more obvious and logical explanations for it that all relate to the Ukrainian case, rather than him secretly having some sort of knowledge about Charlie Kirk or wanting Charlie Kirk executed. Because the first thing you would do is tweet that, by the way, right? Like, that totally makes sense. Yeah, Candace, you're really onto something. And what's so strange about this is that I still believe Candace has provided no evidence that the federal government is in on some conspiracy or cover up to like frame Tyler Robinson, or that Israel really did it, or that it was an inside job by TPUSA. Although she's now citing her dreams as evidence of the TPUSA claim. Actually, I should mention that. Listen to this.
Like I just said, had a vivid dream this weekend, and Charlie came to me and he told me that he was betrayed. And so for me, you don't have to believe that, but I do believe that. And it was the immediate sense I got, actually. And I don't know who exactly it is that betrayed him, but I also felt in the dream that it is soon going to be revealed, that it's actually inevitable that it is going to be revealed, that there is nothing and no one that is going to stop the truth from coming out, and it is going to have international consequences. Take that to the bank. Quote me on that.
I'm sorry, but dreams are not evidence. So why you would bring that up is kind of beyond me. But anyway, I think she's provided no evidence of these extraordinary conspiracy theories or claims or whatever, but she actually has provided some real evidence that maybe Charlie Kirk was changing his views on Israel. She provided these text messages that were later authenticated. And okay, so she has, apparently they're real. Maybe he was reconsidering, although he could have also sent those texts kind of tongue in cheek or kind of in frustration. I don't know. But then you discredit yourself when you've actually discovered something real or made an interesting revelation or point by then immediately jumping to conclusions you haven't substantiated, like therefore Israel did it, or therefore it's a TPUSA inside job, any of these outlandish claims for which there is no evidence, or when you dedicate an entire episode to attacking and slandering a Jewish journalist based on a complete misrepresentation and distortion of one tweet. Like, she can't help herself. That's the thing. Because when she occasionally stumbles on something true or interesting, she then goes on to the next crazy imagination, hallucination thing that she's obsessed with that day. I don't know, man. It is a spectacle to watch. It concerns me. I mean, at this point, I'm past concern for her because she clearly has some issues, but you can't bleed on other people, and she's clearly doing that. But I'm more concerned that millions of people are still trusting her because she has shown you over and over again that she is sloppy or dishonest. There's no other explanation. And if somebody will mislead you about this one thing in this kind of way, they will mislead you about all things. So I really wish people would wake up and stop listening to Candace and stop. It's not entertainment at this point. Okay. I know people find it entertaining. She is entertaining. She is charismatic, but she is slandering innocent people and being so fast and loose with the facts in such areas of such egregious and serious allegations that she's making. I truly think it is totally irresponsible and reprehensible at this point. But that's just my perspective. You guys are free to disagree. You're free to still watch her if you choose. It is a free country, but that is my perspective and my recommendation. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. Make sure to subscribe, hit the like button, yada, yada, yada. And that will be it for today's episode of the Brad vs. Everyone podcast. Thanks so much for tuning in. Do consider rating and reviewing the show on audio podcasts or recommending it to a friend. That's the #1 way that audio podcasts grow. And with that, guys, we'll talk again real soon.